It's not about the variety of strategies you have as a teacher. It's not about the variety that you have as a leader. You need a variety, but that's not your goal. It's about working out what it is that you need, what is the result that you want, and how are you going to line things up so that the strategy gets that result.
We're very, very fortunate to have with us, I think that Matt Parr, who's joining us today as our pearler, is probably, I would call him our poster boy for the PTC in all ways. Matt is the head of Nagoya International School, and he's been working in schools in Japan for many years now and serving in multiple roles, from secondary principal, director of curriculum and professional development, and director of fine arts. He's an accomplished musician himself. I was saying to him this morning when we were getting ready that, you know, I'll probably say something about the musician part, because I think sometimes people don't think that, they think there's only one pathway to becoming a school leader, or one or two pathways. And I'm always, it's very close to my heart, growing up in a family of musicians myself, to have someone like Matt at the helm and helping lead in an international school. He is himself a PTC graduate and a super graduate twice over. He has earned both of our certificates, our essential skills certificate as well as the advanced certificate. So when he ran out of certificates, we said, well, then you should become a trainer for us. And in fact, he has been doing that. And he teaches 3 different courses with us. One has been the Teacher Training Center Assessment course, which is now a Teacher Leader course, and 2 courses for the PTC, the Assessment Leadership and Curriculum Leadership. So Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Bambi. Wow, what a welcome. Poster boy for PTC. There you go. Add that one to the resume. I don't know. It is so nice to see everybody. It feels strange. It feels like it should be, of course, it's 11 o'clock at night here, so it feels completely wrong. It should be the morning. I should have a cup of coffee in my hand. We should be in these wonderful training rooms about to start the day. But it's so great, Bambi, that you kind of put us all together through these pearls. I'm going to try and share my screen here a second. I'm going to try and keep it light today. Let me see if we can get this going. I'm going to try and keep it light. There's been some wonderful pearls. I've not managed to stay up late for all of them, but I've been watching them the next day as they come in Japan. There's been some amazing stuff and so much out there. I thought I'd just tell you some stories and basically use this as an excuse to show you lots of pictures of my kids, because that's what I want to do right now. So that's basically what I'm going to do. And I'm going to weave a pearl in there somewhere under this subterfuge of just showing you my family pictures. So here he is. Here's my little guy. This is a while ago. This is Kai. And this is Kai. He's about 2 years old here. He's now a big strapping 9th grader. So this is a while back. And this is up in the northern island of Hokkaido. And this is Kai just getting to know the water, messing about, playing, laughing, smiling. Mommy and Daddy not too far away, giving him a bit of space. But this is play at its best and just beginning to be aware of the water. And some risk-taking going on, because, you know, we're constructing hypotheses here. We're going to construct and test a hypothesis, and the hypothesis is that sand is really good to eat. And we're going to test that hypothesis by eating the sand, and we're going to find out that sand is not great to eat. But this is inquiry at its best. It's also, we're developing risk-taking, a great disposition in there, the risk of taking sand, knowing that the risk is not that great, because Daddy doesn't mind running back half a mile to the car to get a bottle of water to rinse the sand out. So it's a justifiable risk. So we're learning some dispositions. But, you know, you get a bit older, and as you get a bit older, just that play, maybe you want a bit more than that. It's still inquiry, but it's a bit more focused. We need some tools now. We need the bucket, we need the boots, definitely need the hat, definitely need the scarf. We need a bit more distance, a little bit more independence. Mommy and Daddy need to stay back a little bit further now, but maybe with a few more provocative questions, a few more guided reflections. We're moving down that continuum. You need something different than what he needed a few years ago. But, you know, that's not enough either, because we need to go deeper, Daddy. We can't just hang out on the water's edge all this time. We've got to find out what's inside the sea. So to do that, okay, we're going to need some skills, buddy. First skill is how to put on a wetsuit. That is not easy to put on a wetsuit. And how are you going to use your mask? How are you going to use your snorkel? There's some knowledge now. There's some different pieces of learning coming in. And as parents now, as teachers, a few new strategies going to be needed. and the risk is higher, right? Now there is some risk. We're going out into the open water. So this risk-taking disposition, this resilience that we've been building up, let's make sure we've got that honed. Let's make sure we've got that ready. Let's start off in the shallows. Let's start with some guided practice in a nice safe space where the risk is safe. Let's check, have you mastered those skills? Do you know how to use your snorkel? Do you know how to clear your snorkel? Do you know how to put a fin back on if it comes off? And then when we're ready, okay, buddy, let's try it in the ocean. Let's go out deeper. Let's go out further. And now when we're out further, that curiosity, that wonder, that exact same strategy of learning that he had up on that beach in Hokkaido, that's the same. That's back again, but with a new set of skills and in a new context, because we've elevated the level right now. And when we come back in to tell mummy what we saw, oh boy, do we have stories to tell. Do we have cool things to tell? And I have to tell you this, one of the skills he did not master was not letting the mask fog up. And so when we were out, the mask would always fog up. And the poor kid, he really couldn't see much, but in his imagination, he could see everything. So it's, hey buddy, did you see the fish? Yeah. Did you see the crab? Yeah. Did you see the octopus? Yeah. Did you see the shark? Yeah. Did you see the aliens? Yeah. He saw everything. He saw everything that was out there. And he'd come back with this wonderment, this exploration. But you know what, Daddy, it's not so much fun just staying on the top of the water. I want to go under the water. I want to go down there. I want to see what's really down there. Okay, well, this is serious expertise now. This is serious knowledge. And this is serious risk. I mean, you're going scuba diving. There's some serious risk here. There's some science here. You need to understand about oxygen and gas mixes and nitrogen narcosis. And there's all these things that you're going to need to know. There's some serious knowledge, some serious risk. Those dispositions that you've been building of resilience, of assessing risk that you've been growing up with, we're going to need those now. And you know what? Maybe inquiry is not the way to learn to scuba dive. As a parent, I'm not so happy just giving you a tank and telling you to jump in and find out how it goes. I want a real teacher. This is Parker, by the way, brilliant teacher. If you're ever in Guam and you want to learn how to dive, check out Parker, fantastic guy. You need a serious teacher who knows what he's doing, and let's take the risk out of this. Let's make it fun, but this is not a time to inquire. This is a time for skills development. And we're ready. So now this is our first dive. This is me and Kai going out on our first dive, an amazing father-son moment. See, still holding my hand, you know, that connection is still needed. You know, it's interesting how you go from on that beach in Hokkaido, wants to be really close to far away, totally new context now, much older kid, 12 years old, but he needs to hold daddy's hand because we're in a new situation, a new strategy, something different is needed. And now we're down and we're under the water. And that same sense of exploration, that same inquiry, that same open thought that we had before, just making meaning, making understanding, but in a whole new context with a whole new layer of skills and those dispositions really being defined. And by the way, if you're wondering how that picture was taken, given that we're down in the ocean, it's because we were actually diving on one of those things where you can walk down into the sea and you can look out into the coral reef from inside. So that's his sister looking out of the window into the ocean at daddy and brother. And interestingly enough, if you want to know what his sister was doing for the rest of the dive, well, she was doing exactly what he did 8 years earlier, just hanging around on the water's edge and exploring. And so the cycle continues, and that's learning. And it's really simple and it's really natural. And we didn't have units of inquiry and schemes of work and lesson plans for this. We were just two parents with their kids and helping their kids grow up. But the strategy is adjusted as we went through. And so what is the pearl? Well, one pearl is never miss up a good opportunity to show people pictures of your kids. That's the first pearl. But the second pearl, the PTC pearl, is that it's all about alignment and it's not about variety. And I think one of the things that trips us up in schools, both in terms of curriculum leadership, but also leadership in general, is this idea that somehow the aim is to have variety. Now, we had variety with Kai. You know, if you think back to Hokkaido and the beach, and then you think of him with the bucket and the distance there, and then you think the snorkeling and we're going into skills, and you think about how we're developing the dispositions, and then we're going into diving and there's a whole new level of skills. the variety in terms of parenting, in terms of teaching, the variety is there. But the variety was there because the situation changed and the learning changed and what was needed changed. And that's how it's supposed to work. And if you've got a rich curriculum that's rich in concepts and skills and dispositions, you're going to have variety in your teaching strategy because you're going to match it up and you're going to line it up. But variety is not the goal. It's the result. So this is the one sciencey slide, and then the rest of it's light. Okay, so this is the one piece of kind of content. When we're looking at alignment in curriculum, it's simple, really. There's only 4 types of learning. There's concepts, these bigger understandings, these sort of different ways of seeing the world and understanding the world, the light bulb moments. There's skills, things that we can do, physical skills like shooting a basket, or skills like hypothesizing, evaluating, synthesizing. There's dispositions, being a risk taker, being resilient, being caring, being empathetic, these habits of mind. And then there's the knowledge, the stuff you need to know to be able to do any of the above, because you can't teach a concept without knowledge. You can't teach a disposition without knowledge. You can't master a skill unless you know something about what it is you're trying to do. And each of those needs a different way to be taught. And it's not about just picking one for variety. It's about knowing what is the right fit, what's going to fit like a glove. For conceptual learning, inquiry cycles. You can't teach someone a concept. They have to discover it for themselves. They have to wonder and puzzle and make meaning for themselves. You can't teach concepts. You can inquire into them. You can facilitate an understanding of them. For skills, totally different. For skills, kids need to identify the gap between the performance that they want to achieve and where they are right now. And they need to deconstruct the difference between the ideal performance and current performance. And then they need to practice and have feedback on practice. This whole release of responsibility model, it's a totally different way of teaching, totally different to teaching a concept. And dispositions, and this is something, if I was going to go off and have time to do some research, and I mean, I'd love to work at developing better models for teaching dispositions. It's really like the new frontier, but we shouldn't just assume that they're going to happen, and we shouldn't just catch kids at them when they're being good. We should be teaching them the same as everything else. How do we develop in kids the capability to perform a disposition, the skills of risk-taking? How do we teach kids the skills that underpin risk-taking? How do we get them to be sensitive to when it's time to take a risk? And how do we get them to decide, okay, I'm really going to do that. I'm habitually going to take that choice. Because then you've got a disposition. So what are the character education models that we have that line up to dispositional teaching? And then for knowledge, how are we helping kids to learn and use facts, decide which facts to learn? How are they going to commit them to memory? How are they going to retrieve them when needed? This whole retrieval process. Again, there's a whole set of pedagogy around that, right? Short-term memory and working memorism. So alignment in curriculum, we know that. Line it all up. And if you line it all up, you'll have variety. Because you've got in your schools, I know, everything on the left-hand side, and your teachers can do everything on the right-hand side. It's just a case of matching them up, and learning will happen in engaging and fun ways. Well, that's alignment in curriculum, but there's also alignment in leadership, because PTC were about leadership. Bambi said I was a music teacher. This is me in my former life. This is a band tour in Germany. Actually, we took our high school band over to Germany to do a tour. And when I moved into leadership, leading adults, I think I was very naive, and I think I started leadership as a conductor. I thought, and as a conductor, well, it should be fairly simple, right? You've got, okay, I'm accountable. I'm the guy with the baton. I'm accountable, but we've all got the music. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the music. And so my job is just to help you play the music, and you've got the music there, and we'll make the music happen. And how hard can it be? But of course, it's very hard. And of course, it's not like that. And what I learned in leadership actually would have made me a much better band director, much better conductor, because there are many, many ways to be a good conductor. Because it depends on who you're leading, who your musicians are. And it also depends on the type of music. There's time to dance with the musicians. There's time to bring along the journey. There's time to encourage and hold the space and hold this moment that we can join together. There's time to say, you take it. This is you. You take us, you lead us. And there's time to say, come with me. This is where we are now. And again, good conductors don't do that because they want variety. They do that because they want a result. And they get the right approach for the result that they want, not because it's just fun to do something different. And then, of course, There's times when you just put the baton down and you just join. This is, of course, Duke Ellington, leading from the piano, leading from the band from within. I mean, Lee was talking about, learning by doing, right? So there's that. That's also leadership. And so, when I think of myself as a conductor, that kind of held me back to begin with, until I really understood what conducting was, better than I ever did as a music teacher, actually. I think sometimes I perhaps, and I think I still do, because I think it's really hard. Sometimes there's a way to teach fifth grade band. If I'm teaching fifth grade band, I got to be really clear. That's a very different way than if I'm teaching, an honor band or a symphonic ensemble. And I think I made some mistakes, and I think I still do make mistakes when I'm trying to lead. Sometimes there's a group that I'm teaching like their fifth grade band, but they need more space than that, or the opposite. Maybe a bit of fifth grade band direction is what we need right now, and I get it wrong. My one other slide to point you to in terms of a resource would be this book, The Ignorant Maestro, Ite Talgam. He's an Israeli conductor, but he now calls himself a conductor of people. And he talks very much about this notion of creating space for creativity and passion in the musicians, and respecting the gap between the baton and the musician. And the idea of being the ignorant maestro is, you have the image, the vision of the music in your head, but it's the musicians that make it come alive. And what do you need to do to bring out the best in them? And it's not variety. It's what's fit for purpose. What's the type of music, and who are the musicians that you have? Again, in my early days, in my first year, I think as a principal, I totally misread it. I was trying to lead a change process through my department heads team at the time. And, I was conducting them like fifth grade band, and they were experienced departmental leaders, and they didn't have the space to be who they needed to be. And then we got a committee together of teachers to looking at this concept that we were trying to work with. And I think I conducted them in the right way. That was more a free-flowing ensemble. That was more like a jazz band. And then they went back into the departmental teams and started having those conversations. And then that was the space that the department heads needed to then bring their wisdom and their seniority to it. And we actually made some progress. But I got it wrong the first time. I didn't match the style right. So that's the pearl. The pearl is, it's not about the variety of strategies you have as a teacher. It's not about the variety that you have as a leader. You need a variety. You absolutely need a variety, but that's not your goal. It's about working out what it is that you need, what is the result that you want, either from your learners or from your colleagues, and how are you going to line things up so that the strategy gets that result. And it's not easy, by the way. It's not easy. And I keep failing every single day at doing it. That's my pearl.
Thank you so much, Matt. I can see the faces of the people here if you scroll through the screen, that there's a lot of digesting going on. And I know it may have come out as a single pearl to you, but I'd say it's definitely a string. We've got definitely a string of pearls emerging from that wonderful presentation of a simple concept. Matt has got, I know, Matt, you have many ways that you've done what you are suggesting to us and, giving us this concept. Could you just share, I'm thinking of the many things that you've shared with us at the PTC over the years, and together how we've sort of forged models and things. Could you give an example of something that you actually do in your school that represents that alignment, either in the leadership side or, as a culture shaping tool that insists that teachers use? One of Matt's favorite phrases is insist-upons. It's one of his favorite things, and I know that emanates from this idea that we have to take the concept that you've given us and say, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? So if you could give an example of something that you use at your school that translates this to those insist-upons.
Yeah, the insist upon concept, we use that a lot at PTC, and it's really sort of this notion of what belongs to the school and what belongs to the teacher. It's a key question, right? Because once you work out what belongs to whom, you take a lot of confusion out. And that gives people the space to be the professional. It goes back to this conducting idea. You know, the essence of being a professional musician is not that you just get to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. That's not how a musician defines their professionalism. It's being a part of the ensemble and making your piece come alive. So to do that, you need some parameters, like what's the score we're playing, what's the song we're playing, at least what key are we playing in. There needs to be some kind of a parameter, so that the insist-upons are really, you know, what are the non-negotiables that we have as a school, that we say, you know what, no matter what, we are all going to agree, you know, to these things. At our school, I mean, obviously, you know, assessment is something that is close to my heart. So having insist-upons around assessment practice, we're an IB school, so some of the standards and practices that come in there around feedback, around the feedback that we give to kids and so on, would be some insist-upons. We have insist-upons around, you know, collegiality. You know, that's just a very, very important part of being in the school. You know, we will insist upon the fact that you're part of a team. And that, you know, it's not okay to just close your door and be a solo player. You know, you're part of the orchestra. The insist-upons really define. I work with a good colleague, and he says, you know, a leader is defined by the lowest thing that they're prepared to tolerate. And I've learned a lot from working with him this year. You know, the lowest thing, the lowest poor contribution or poor performance or poor behavior, I guess, if you want, for want of a better word, that you will tolerate. That is what defines you as a leader. And that's really worth thinking about. And that's because that speaks to the insist upon. So you insist upon cordiality, or you insist upon a certain level of presentation, you insist upon a certain level of rigor, you insist upon a certain level of feedback, you insist upon a certain level of alignment between assessment and instruction. But then you don't actually hold true to that insist upon. That is what defines you as the leader. But you have to balance that with being, you know, the person that doesn't care, the person that doesn't understand that you're having a bad day, or that, you know, you're going through something at home, or there's a personal situation or whatever, right? And so that empathetic leader and knowing your people. So as I say, it's not easy. It sounds easy, you know, it sounds very easy when you have these models. It's actually very hard when you actually start working with it. But the insist-upons help, because at least they ground you, and that's the anchor. That's the anchor point around which, you know, you can define who your school is and who you should be. That's your sheet music. That's your sheet music. And then from there, you can have your professionalism that sprouts out, and each individual player can make it come alive with their kids in their classroom. That's the idea.
And so those are, you know, an embodiment of that alignment, you know, so the two, I think people are kind of stunned because there's so much richness here that we, every day, really, we want to move on and be able to have an hour together to really explore how can we take these two notions today of alignment, both in everything, including leadership, is straight through to what does that look like when we're doing that in practice. So thank you for giving us that example. I'm going to ask Matt, and he's always generous with his work, to provide a couple of examples that he uses at his school that are reflective of these two notions. And I hope, Matt, you'll agree to share a couple of those with us. They're the actual practical tools that bring these two notions together. So thank you. Sadly, we are needing to think about closing here. Matt, love it. We love you. Thank you so much for staying up until 11:30 at night to share with us. Give our love to your family, to Kai and to Emily and to your wife. We're really grateful for all that you've given us over the years and also today.